Records it, don't they?
Yes, but for our audio, this is episode 6.
Welcome everyone to Coffee Talk with Julie and Nate, episode 6. Here we are. Man, you would think after 6 episodes would be more professional than instead of less professional.
I think that's part of the charm. Come on.
So yeah, but you and I mean, we usually connect on Monday mornings for this, but last week, of course, we both were on Gary Douglas's Living the Future class. How was that for you?
That was so amazing, that class. I think I didn't sleep the whole night before because, when you sign up with a class, any class, you get the energy of the class. It starts working in your world. But I don't know, this class with Gary, he's so powerful. And it was changing all kinds of things. And in my sleep, I kept waking up and thinking about what questions I wanted to ask. Wow, it changed so much. How was it for you?
Well, I mean, I was one of the kind of virtual online hosts, and so it's been kind of up for me for a couple weeks beforehand. And it's really interesting, like you said, when you knew it was coming, sort of the energy of the class started beforehand. And I was really thinking that they should start to advertise that as part of like getting your money's worth from class. Is like the earlier you pay, the more benefit you get from class. You know what I mean? Like, because people register and pay a week ahead, and then they start talking about how the energy of the class is already working on them, and they're getting already downloads and awareness and all this other stuff. So, I mean, if you have a class you're interested in coming up, I would say register and pay as soon as possible.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. I notice it too when people register and pay for my classes. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I've got some people to play with. Because like we can't wait. We're like a racehorse waiting to get out of the gate. Come on, let's play.
And it's just like the contribution of everyone and the energy of everyone together creating, right? Like it's super cool. But the class was amazing. I mean, for the last couple months, of course, Gary and Dane have been talking about changing tracks, and they've been talking about sort of the past is not really the past anymore, and how it's just all about choice and future and choice and creation. And all of that until last week for me was somewhat cerebral in a sense. Like it didn't really hit me until then. And I've listened to it now probably 2 or 3 more times. And it's really messing with my head. It's really messing with my head.
Yeah. Well, and the thing too that's really interesting is like a lot of what he said, I've heard it like hundreds of thousands of times over 17 years. But it makes so much more sense the more you clear your points of view, and the more it's like you're not looking at it through your eyes of like conclusion, I guess. And it opens up these total other energetic awarenesses that are so subtle and so powerful. And I think that's part of what is the beauty of this access consciousness adventure, is that it gets more interesting and more subtle the deeper and longer you go. So it's not like this old boring, oh yeah, I've heard that, whatever. Anytime I start to turn off, like, oh yeah, I've heard this story a million times, I'm like, no, wait, what is in here that I haven't heard? Because it's not about the story. He's always trying to illustrate some subtle nuance of something. Right. And then you get it, and it's like your whole way of being totally changes.
Yeah, and I mean, how long have I heard about your past being irrelevant, and how long have I heard about your past being like not making choices based on that, or not having that influence choices or decisions or what have you. And I mean, I've heard that, like you said, hundreds of times. And for some reason last week, it suddenly became real to think like, what if I had no past? And what if the past, and I think this was the aspect or element to it that really changed it for me, was what if the past that I remember is different from the past that other people remembered? And so I was looking at, I could potentially be still angry with my dad about things that I think happened that he doesn't even remember happened. Like, what a waste of time and energy to be waiting for him to apologize or to come around on it and be like, yep, yeah, I totally fucked up, when he doesn't even, it's not even a thing. It does not exist for him.
Right.
And like, that's such a, and so, and my dad is just one example, but look at the way that the past has these little tendrils that have wound themselves all around the way that I make choices, or the way that I look at going forward, in a sense, has so far been influenced in ways that I never thought about from the past. Like, oh, last time I did this was the result, so I shouldn't do it again. Or I used to have this relationship with these people and I don't anymore, and so I should relate like this. Like, it's just, it's really been messing with me, if you
It's
can't
a
tell.
great way to hold
Like,
ourselves back instead of
oh,
using tendrils of the future to pull us forward, because it's the same ability, we just only apply it backwards.
right.
Tendrils of the future beyond this reality can we pull into our lives that will catapult us forward to where it is that we're choosing to go. Like, aren't we choosing to go forward?
And it's, choice. It for some reason, this lack of past has really opened up choice, simply for choice sake, in a sense. Like, follow the energy. What's fun? What's light? What's yes? Like, those sorts of tools that I've had available and been using, but there's always been this extra baggage that I've still been carrying along. And now looking at it in terms of, like, starting from a clean slate, like an absolutely clean slate. If you have no past, then suddenly, I mean, resumes are irrelevant, like it's, I mean, when you're operating in this reality, of course, you're like, your resume and your job experience and all that. But for yourself, in creation of your future, it's completely, and it's just infinite possibilities of choice. I don't know. I don't know how else to say it, but that's, from that class, is really what's been messing with my head, which is good.
That's
My
a
head's
good thing.
really overactive.
There's yes, you do. there's there's this other thing that's been this totally golden nugget for me, and it's about your life as your business, not your business as your life. And I've heard that.
You asked that great question in the class.
Yes, I've asked that. Like, I've heard it a million times. I know it logically, but I got it in a totally different way. Maybe just from being on the hot seat. But I've listened to that section probably 10 or 15 times, and I listened to the Shannon section probably 10 or 15 times.
Every time she asks a question, it is crazy. Like, I've never heard her ask a question in class that wasn't a total contribution to the entirety of everyone there.
Yeah,
like,
well, she comes from so much further beyond this reality and goes to those places that I love those conversations, and I'd like to be having those conversations. And it like so many people here are so used to, everything in this reality that the conversation doesn't go there. It's not deep enough. And
Right.
so I usually just end up sitting there like, okay, I have nothing to say because it's not interesting or whatever. But though, like, wow. So your business as your life instead of, no, your life is your business instead of your business as your life. And like, if you want to increase your business or increase your money flows, actually, you don't try to increase your business, you increase your living, which
Right.
is totally opposite of what anybody would say, but it
Yeah.
makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
And it's like the
Yeah.
more you have fun. I used to ask that all the time when I traveled, like, how can traveling and going to this class make me more money than staying home? But I don't necessarily think of that as when I'm home and, you know, normal daily life.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool thing to add in.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, when you ask that question about business and sort of like creating business going forward, like what does business look like in the future? And his response was not about your business. Like
He said,
kind of
you're asking too small. And like, I
exactly
didn't even finish the sentence. But
right.
the energy of it, and I listened to that too, the energy of it was so small. I'm looking at my business in the future, which isn't my
Yeah.
life.
Right.
And if you just get the sense of that, like what would your life like to be like, get the energy of that and put that into all the things that you do, then your business expands, your life expands, everybody around you expands.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a, and it's such an interesting thing to look at kind of how do you measure the size of your life in a sense, and but like the idea of a small life or a big life, and there aren't any real measurements of that. Most people will look at your bank account or how many houses you have or what kind of car you drive, but it's so much more than that. It's so many more different elements of it, but you can get the energy of that.
Mhm.
So like when you ask the question, yeah, the energy of kind of focus and smallness in a sense was there, right? and and you were asking about like my business, what does my business look like going forward? And he was like, what does your life look like going forward? And looking at your life as a business, I'm still working through that because I mean I've
Well,
yeah.
it's you being the source, put it that way. It's
Yeah.
not your business being the source of your income, it's you being the source. And the more you be, and the interesting thing is too, I did a symphony of possibilities trade with a friend a few days after that, and had this huge thing come up and clear. It's actually still clearing, I can still perceive it, but um, one of the major ways that I shut down my being and receiving was when I started being, or when other people were aware that I was being more than them, the amount of hatred that came up in their world, whether it was at me or at themselves, and it felt so horrible that I like pulled it all in and shut it all down, like
Yeah.
not make them feel bad, but it squished my life. And there are still people in, well, not currently, but like recently there were people in my life, they're like, you're so big, you're so, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm just me.
Right.
And if you don't, if you feel small being around me, that like that's not me making you feel small, that's your own point of view, and just get bigger,
Yeah.
come and play. So it's thankfully not something that I'm choosing to hold myself back from anymore, but um,
That's
there's
great.
there's
Yeah.
just so much more we can be, and to stop yourself because of other people feeling less than is one of the biggest cruelties we can do to ourselves.
Yeah. I I jumped on the gentleman's weekly call last Thursday here. And it was kind of about, well, I asked a question, and it was that I had been realizing I sort of modulated myself according to who I was around. So instead of just being the bigness of me, regardless of who I'm with or the context of the situation, I was sort of going into it, figuring out like, okay, I have to be this size for these people, or I have to be this size for these people. But it was always, it's always been a cutting off of a section or a constriction of me, like a compaction, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of just being me, the bigness of me and whatever I be at the time, regardless of who's there and whether they like it or not, because it's always been so far in sort of what can people receive, and not only what can they receive, but more so what is their expectation of me, so I can match it and meet it and be like, did a good job.
Those are great abilities to have. Like, think of how aware you are.
Yeah, but not,
Just not using it for you.
yeah, like acknowledging what that is, and being willing to be, there's a difference between being aware of what they can receive.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're giving an SOP, like we both do SOP sessions, and how many times have you been giving a session where you could give the person so much and they can receive this much, and it's not a kindness to them to overload them with more than they can receive. What are they asking for? What are they receiving? So that is one thing, is being aware of what people can receive,
Mm-hmm.
but
Okay,
not
hold on.
cutting yourself off.
Right. But here's the thing. You can still be it. And you
Right,
don't have to give it to them. You can just be it.
right.
And they can like drink in the rays like the sunshine or go inside and
Yeah,
get out of the sun, like, but the sun doesn't shrink up because somebody's like, it's too hot. Like, if it's too hot, go inside.
yeah. And instead of turning it off or turning it down, like you said, you just be that, and you don't have to regulate that for anybody. Like, why would you turn yourself down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a silly habitual response. So, hey, can we do a clearing for all the silly habitual responses that contract our being instead of allow us to expand and be greater? Can we all destroy and uncreate it?
Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds.
And if you don't
And
know what those words are, it's the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement, and you can find out more at theclearingstatement.com, correct?
yes, yes. Actually, I had this conversation, or I chipped in on a conversation 2 weeks ago, maybe, and they said it was at clearingstatement.com, and it's not. It's theclearingstatement.com.
Correct.
But yeah, Dane goes through a huge explanation and like really dives into what it's all about. But basically, I mean, clearings and the clearing statement is one of the things that's at the core of the way that Access gives you tools for changing things in your life. Although something that I really had to have beaten into me, like from beaten into me is maybe a little harsh, but I mean, at the beginning, you come exposed to clearings and the clearing statement,
You can't have it easy, that's all.
and you just want to destroy and uncreate everything. And then at some point, they're like, well, you can't clear that. It's a choice. Like, choice is required.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just clear everything. When something comes up that you can clear, great, do it. Also, you need to choose to create. So, yeah. Man.
Yeah. So what would you like your future to be? and like get the energy of that. And that was the other thing that was really cool. So many people were trying to get a picture of the future or some words or some targets or something. And each time he's like, stop coming to conclusion. It's not about figuring out what the future is going to be. It's get the energy, get a sense of the energy. What would I like my future to be like?
Right.
Receive that energy and follow the energy. So it's like really, you know, it's like a game, follow the energy game. And if you don't think you know how to follow the energy, pock and pot that and allow yourself to play with it and build the muscle and learn.
Yeah.
Because it's part of
Yeah.
the fun and it's part of the magic. And that's how, you happen to go this way and go that way and you run into a friend or you see a really great bargain or you make some other kind of connection that had you not been following the energy and not thinking, it's not about thinking and trying to get it right. It's following the energy. It feels like nothing. That's part of the ease, joy, and glory.
Right.
Living
Yeah,
your
there's no calculation. There's no linear progression of steps A, B, C, D. You just it's just the knowing and the awareness of this is, you ask a question and you get the awareness and then you follow the energy. Like, why have I made it so hard?
well,
Ah,
what would Gary say? You don't want anything. Well, there's only one thing you want hard in
no,
life.
no. Yeah.
There's only one thing, and it's not your life.
Yep. And he said that a couple times.
Ice cream. No.
Are you looking for people to give suggestions of other potentially useful hard things?
I don't know. There's not much interaction here. There are people joined. Hello, people. Ira,
That's as we
Ruth,
got.
Nini, Sandra. Thank you for listening live. If anybody does have questions, you can always pop them in the comments there, and we will do our best to address it. We have
Yeah,
about
definitely dive in.
minutes left.
We've been chatting away. The class was just so good. I think a lot of people maybe shied away because of the price potentially. I don't know what the deal is, but I mean, honestly, anytime you can see Gary
Yeah.
on camera these days, jump at it. That would be my recommendation,
Yeah. I looked at it like it was really pulling me, this class, and I looked at the price and I was like, well, with this pandemic and my main business, quote, main business, not being open, like, wow, I don't actually have the income for this. So I was like, what the heck? I'll ask a question. I'll try this out. Instead of coming to conclusion that I can use my savings or I can put it on a credit card, I was just like, okay, universe, I'd really like to take this class. What would it take?
Uh-huh.
Can you bring me the money? And I was talking to my mom the next day and I was like, I really want to take this class. I really not sure what's happening in the future for my business. And it's just really pinging me. And she said, how much is it? And I told her, and she was like, that's too expensive. That's crazy. And can't he give you a deal? I'm like, no, that's just what it is. And it's, it is what it is. Forget it. Never mind. I won't do it. It's no problem. Next morning, she sent me a text and it said, take the class, I'll pay. And I was shocked beyond belief, totally shocked.
Wow.
And so yeah, and I took that whole day. I went and traded bars and got a massage, even though you're not supposed to do it, and just had a day of nurturing me and my body and having space. And got home that night and I was like, oh shoot, I still didn't register. So I registered, and as soon as I hit pay, it was like,
Yep.
like this amazing, totally different possibilities started flooding in.
Just imagine if you had registered and paid in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. And you know, at the last minute, I almost didn't choose it. I was like, wow, there's so many other classes I'd like to take. I could use that money for something else. And then I was like, you know what? I asked for it for this.
Yep.
And here's the thing, like, if I choose this, what's that going to create in my life? And maybe I'll be able to also choose the other things, and I can create other, whatever, revenue streams to do it all.
And now, like you didn't have enough evidence already, you have another example of how questions work.
Yeah. So what is possible? And anybody who is looking at a class, like, what if you didn't make money the valuable choosing determinant? What if it was your awareness of what it's going to create? And I know that, like, this class was, you know, it's $1,200 for one day. It's nothing to sneeze at. But there are things that are, you know, $10, $25, $50, $100, $500 for classes, and what you get out of it is exponentially more. Are you willing to choose that for yourself and invest in yourself?
Yeah.
I know I've got like a PhD worth of investment in myself through Access.
That's what I was at. This was a class years and years ago, and now the reference materials are even greater, and the number, like the amount of material, is even greater. But Shannon at one point said, so like, if you read all the reference materials that we actually gave you, you would have a PhD in consciousness. That's what she said. Like, it's so much material.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, if I listen to all the hours of classes that I have available to me, man, it's so great. How did we get so lucky to choose this, man? Because you look around and you see people choosing tiny and small, and like, I mean, have you seen videos of people hugging people with plastic sheets between them and like?
No, but like, even what we're choosing right now is small compared to what we can choose. So it's a never ending expansive possibility, kind of like the universe.
Because possibilities are infinite. There is no limitation.
Yeah. So what would it take to live as no limitation? Not stopping ourselves, not slowing ourselves down, not holding ourselves back, not giving ourselves excuses, but just choosing based on the joy of it. Oh my God. Don't do it. You can't. I dare you.
Are we already wrapping up? You got your thing coming up?
Yes, I have my expand call in a minute.
I have like this weird pattern on the sheet here. I don't know what's going on. It's like a phoenix, maybe? I'm not sure.
Yeah, rising out of the ashes.
Can't tell. Anyway, that's really weird. Anyway, yeah. Well, anybody who watches this would love to get questions. Send them in for next week. I mean, obviously, Julie and I can chat with each other because we enjoy each other's company. But we would love to talk to some other people as well.
Yeah, and would it be fun to invite on a guest speaker or something?
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, just invite a guest. We don't have to call them a speaker. We can just have them. We can call them guest live audience.
Ah, guest live audience. I like it. If anybody wants to be on the hot seat.
Yeah, we'd love that. I have a couple names that came to mind as well. Nice.
Okay.
All right. Well, Miss Julie, it was great to see you again.
Great to see you too. Have a good night, and have a good day, everybody else.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye.